Hello students, before I proceed with your creative writing skills, I just want to give you one tip to improve your vocabulary. It's very essential for you to add on words to your vocabulary. Only then will you be able to write in a flow. Otherwise, you will always be fumbling for words. Now, one way of improving your words is to read newspaper daily. That increases your knowledge. Apart from that, you underline at least 2 words. Go up to 5. Underline them, use a highlighter the way I did. I highlighted the word confluence, then read the news, then I highlighted the word resilience. Now, these words, then look up for their meanings. If right at that particular moment you don't have your register with you, have a particular copy. Cover it with a different color paper. Then write down the meaning and act or process of merging. The function of 2 rivers, especially rivers of approximately equal width. That's confluence. Now here in this news it was Kashi, a confluence of ancient and new, merging. Then resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. Resilience is a word which is used in your regular English, and our Prime Minister also frequently uses this word. Now you must transfer the word and the meaning to your register, and once you have about 10-12 words, use them. Even if they're not required at that particular moment, deliberately use them with your friends, with your cousins. Somebody with who is your practicing buddy. Use them, practice them till they get registered in your mind. Only then they will come into your flow. It cannot happen that just before your exam you take out your copy and just try and memorize the words. You won't be able to do it. So the best way, note down the words, practice the words with your friends, use them. The more you use them, the more they'll become part of your regular vocabulary, right? Okay. Next we move on to is our creative writing skills, and that is invitations. It's always a fun to receive invitation from your friends, from your relatives. Now these invitations are of 2 types. One invitation is formal and the other is informal. So these are the 2 kinds of invitation. Now, it's a kind of personal notice sent individually to people. Now, this formal invitation is in the form of an invitation card, which is a formal way of inviting people. In a formal invitation card, one starts with the designation of the organizer, followed by the name and address of the host, and then the details. See, invitation means you're inviting somebody. What is the occasion? What is the date? What is the time? And what is the venue? So this is an invitation, right? And now the formal invitation is all centralized. The name of the chief organizer with RSVP is on the bottom left-hand corner of the card. It's in the left-hand corner of the card. RSVP with the chief organizer. Now the informal invitations. Now these too can be in the form of a card, they could be in the form of a note or just in the form of a letter. These are not formal. Very casual. You're to your friend, to your cousin. For instance, you're inviting your relatives, your friends, your colleagues to attend some particular function or an occasion, such as engagement, Now see, there are certain questions which can be formal as well as informal. If it's a very big function and they got their cards printed, the same question could be formal, it could also be informal. We've had number of questions in our CBSE board exam, question papers, where one particular year we've had the question as formal question, and that after about a year or so, the same question is being asked as informal. So there's no problem. You have to attempt it accordingly. Now, engagement, marriage, birth, death, public function, these are normally those informal invitations and are just personal letters written to friends or relatives. Their style is relaxed and informal. The informal invitations include personal feelings and emotions, and these are written in letter. Now let's talk about the formal invitations first. These are generally printed invitation cards through which we invite our guest on some auspicious occasion like wedding, birthday, wedding anniversary, housewarming, inauguration of a shop, factory. It could be your school's annual function. It could be 25th Silver Jubilee celebration of the school. No? All those questions come under formal invitations. Now, in case a VIP is invited to preside over a function, now this you need to note carefully. In case a VIP is invited, like for your school functions, we always have a chief guest. Now, this chief guest is definitely a VIP. He's a renowned person. His name will come in block letters. Is invited to preside over a function. The name of that VIP appears prominently. Clearly, the name will be written in capital letters, and then the designation, and then you need to add on some words like renowned word will be added. Renowned Mr. S. Shukla, the DM of the city, DM of Meerut city, will grace the function as the chief guest. These formal invitations don't include the name of the invitee. The addresser's name and address is typed or written on the envelope only. It's directly on the envelope it's written. Now these letters are written in third person. You don't say, I am inviting you. No? Even if you are inviting, the person says that the question says you are, I'll just share a question. It was Mr. and Mrs. Sudarshan, you are Mrs. and Mr. Sudarshan, on behalf of your father draft a formal invitation. So you don't say, I am inviting you, although you are inviting, but the invitation will remain in third person. And the simple present tense is used. The date of writing is not given and there is no signature. The abbreviation RSVP. Now here children always want to know what RSVP stands for. It's actually a French word which means Répondez s'il vous plaît. The meaning of this is please reply. So under RSVP, which is written at the bottom with contact number or the name of the sender's name or the family. These are the two things mentioned under RSVP. Now, sometimes the question is a formal invitation, but it is for an individual. The formal invitation is not for everyone. Like the question says, invite Mr. M.S. Dhoni to inaugurate the cricket club of your school. Now, the invitation is only for one person. Now, how do you go about it? How do you draft this invitation? Now, when the invitation is for an individual, these include the name of the invitee. then these are written in run-on lines. You don't get it printed. For one person, you don't get it printed. You are inviting him to inaugurate, and then finally he'll send his acceptance. And just in case, if he doesn't agree, you'll have to give the invitation to somebody else. And after that only you'll get that name printed on your cards. So these are written in run-on lines. The sentence is not broken into different words or phrases the way it is done in the card of formal invitation. These may be handwritten, typed or printed. Other details are similar to the mass scale invitations. Now look at the formal invitation. The formal invitation, it's in a box. Now, here we have who is inviting. Mrs. Sharda Gautam solicits your gracious presence on the auspicious occasion of the marriage of her granddaughter. Now these lines, you could just prepare them, keep them ready. Your gracious presence, you're cordially invited, solicit your presence. So these things need to be prepared beforehand. They'll not spontaneously strike your mind. Then the name is going to be written in bold letters, the name of the granddaughter. You will assume it. Any assumed name you will write down, if it's not given in the question. Now your sister Shalini is going to marry Mayank. They mentioned the name of the girl. They mentioned the name of the boy. Son of Mr. and Mrs. D.K. Joshi of Ambala. Your father N.K. Gautam has planned to hold the wedding at Utsav Banquet Hall, Raja Garden, New Delhi. Write a formal invitation on behalf of your grandmother, Mrs. Sharda Gautam, inviting guests to the auspicious occasion. All this is given. Now just in case if you don't read the question properly and you just mention the name of the parents out here and then begin the question, you got it wrong, you will lose marks. So make it a point that you read your question properly, know your question properly, and see if the names are given or they're not given, or you have to write down the assumed names. Name of the banquet hall is given. Had it not been given, you would have written some assumed name or an XYZ banquet hall, New Delhi. Now, Mrs. Sharda Gautam solicits your gracious presence on the auspicious occasion of the marriage of her granddaughter, Shalini, daughter of Mrs. and Mr. N.K. Gautam of Deed 32, Raja Garden, New Delhi, with Mayank, son of Mrs. and Mr. D.K. Joshi of 278 Civil Lines. See, if the addresses are not given, this could be skipped. It's not mandatory. Just the names need to be there. No? Then comes, what is the date? Marriages or marriage they mentioned. Whose marriage? Shalini with Mayank. No, when is it? Where is it? What time is it? All this needs to be put together. It should not happen that you've written the date and, oh, I forgot to write down the time. And then you're scribbling the time somewhere else. No. Day, date, time, venue. All this needs to come together. On, you may add the day also. On Sunday, March 20 or 20 March 2022 at 7:30 p.m. at Utsav Banquet Hall. See, the name of the venue is always highlighted, you know. So, day also could be added. Sunday, 20th March 2022 at 7:30 p.m. at Utsav Banquet Hall, Raja Garden, New Delhi. Then with best compliments from all relatives and friends, RSVP N.K. Gautam, and you mention any number, you know, 98 and then XXX, you could just put down. Need not bother about giving your actual numbers or something. Most of the time, even this question, even this number is given to you in the exam. Now then, see, one is this kind of formal invitation. The other kind of formal invitation is like formal invitation to the annual function. Now these school functions, remember one thing, whenever you have to draft an invitation for the school functions, could be about the CBSE zonal football zonal tournament, whatever the occasion, always remember to add a chief guest. And when you add a chief guest, the name appears prominently. The name would come, the designation would come, and then that line would fit everywhere. Has consented to grace the occasion as the chief guest, or will preside over the function as the chief guest. So for those school functions, you will always mention chief guest in your formal invitation, right? So day, date, time, venue needs to be put together, and then the occasion needs to be highlighted. That will be written separately in bold letters, if it's annual function, or if it's sports day, or if it's inauguration. Now here two things would be highlighted. Inauguration would also be written separately in capital letters. Then inauguration of what? If it's a boutique, then you got to mention the name of the boutique. It's not just the word boutique will come. Think of a name and add on to that word boutique, and then mention the day, date, time, venue. Then again, preferably have a chief guest, and the chief guest must be related to the question. Suppose if it's like sports day, then your chief guest should be related to that particular field. A sportsman could be invited as your chief guest. Okay, next we move on to is, now although we've already discussed, but still very quickly I'll once again explain the tips to you. Now for the formal invitation, most people prefer simple and elegant printed cards. The gaudiness is generally avoided. Gaudiness, you understand? Not making it very dramatic or not making it very flowery or something. No. Simple, clear invitation. Then the formal invitations are written in the third person. She, he, they instead of I, you, we. Right? Then, Mr. and Mrs. Whittle request the pleasure of Professor Higgins' company. This is how you begin. Avoid using abbreviation for the guest names, like, or the titles and days and dates. Again, I'm repeating. Avoid using abbreviations for the guests' names or the titles or the days. You will not just put down December as just DEC, or January you're just putting down as JAN. Write down the complete January, complete December. And then most of the subject matter is written in what is called center setting. Everything is very centralized. There are more solved questions in your Maxx marks, and when you will go through those solved questions, that will give you a more insight into those formal invitations. Details like the address, RSVP, dress code, and any instructions, however, may be placed either to the left or to the right, right in the end. If the question is demanding something from you, that add on this, ask the parents not to use their mobiles, or ask the parents not to come near the stage or be seated by this particular time. All this will come right in the end. The invitation should carry full names of the guests. Again, full names of the guests, not that you briefly mention. This is not being courteous if you don't mention their names I mean, if the names are not mentioned in full. Now let's move on to the informal invitations. The informal invitations follow the pattern of ordinary personal letters. They are very personal, informal. You don't have to use formal language. I, you, we are used in this. These letters are written to relatives, friends and acquaintances. Note the following points. These invitations are written in first person. Formals are written in third person. These are written in first person. I, we, I'm inviting you to my birthday party, And second person is used for the addressee. Personal feelings and emotions find an expression. The salutation is usually dear. Dear Arun. The name comes, the first name. The date of writing is given, but the year is generally omitted because it's an informal invitation, and these are given at very short notice because no elaborate preparations are there. It's not a very grand function, it's a very small occasion. So not much of preparations have been done. So for that, you don't have to plan it beforehand. They could be just planned within a week or few days. Different tenses are used as the sense demands. The complementary clause is yours sincerely. The writer's address is given in the usual place. This style is relaxed and informal. Let us take up an example for a better understanding. You are Rukmini Raja of R201 Fort Road, Chennai. You have just purchased a new house. You decide to have a housewarming ceremony and invite your cousin Balaji. Write an invitation in 50 words, giving all the necessary details. So it's an informal invitation. On left side comes your address. Preferably, you could just avoid these commas. Just all right. Or you could just skip this out. Dear Balaji, I am thrilled. See, the word dear is used. We did not write it like this in the formal invitation. I'm thrilled to tell you that I have purchased my dream house about which I told you earlier. The house has all the facilities that I always wanted. See, this will be framed on your own. I've purchased a new house, I've purchased a spacious house, I've purchased a beautiful house. Frame it on your own. That I always wanted. I need your blessings on me and my family as we celebrate our new house. On comes the date, what date it is, and with a housewarming ceremony. Reason is a housewarming ceremony party organized for our loved ones. And then you may mention here the time also, at 12 or at 1 p.m. because generally the housewarming ceremonies are in the morning hours. Please come along with your entire family. With love, either of the two. You will not mention two. It will be either Raja or Rukmini, not both. What is it? Housewarming ceremony. Date is 26th May. And then you may add a date out here now. You may just add a date out here. May 20th, 2000. Or you mention XXX, so XXX remains like this, right? We have the address, we have the date, and then we have the salutation, and then we have a letter form. In the form of a letter, we write the invitation. We are inviting. Occasion is housewarming. What is the date? What is the time? And then housewarming है तो घर पे ही होगा, वो बाहर नहीं होगा. It will be at the house. Now we talk about the replies to the invitation. Now replies, just like the invitations, are formal as well as informal. Now the formal reply. A formal reply is very short, it's brief and to the point. And then another thing which I just wish to explain here is, in formal replies, the chief guest need not, or the person being invited, need not give you a reason. In an informal, you need to give a reason, but in formal, you need not give a reason. You may just directly mention, due to unavoidable circumstances, we are not able to, or will not be able to accept the invitation to preside over the function. Just unavoidable circumstances would be sufficient. You need not give the reason. Now, writing formal replies, be brief and to the point. Avoid unnecessary details and superfluous matter. Be polite even while expressing inability or regret. The language, one should always be polite. Not just here, even otherwise in life also you should always be polite. So be polite while you are writing it, and then the tone is formal. Do not exceed the word limit. So word limit is 50 words. Now there's a solved example for your better understanding. You are Anshul Dikshit of 57 Saket Meerut. You have been invited to the wedding of Abhinav, son of Mr. and Mrs. B.C. Tomar of 47 Raja Ki Mandi, Agra, on 28 February 2022. Draft a formal reply accepting the invitation. Be very careful while reading the question. Is the question asking you to accept it, or is the question asking you to refuse it? If it's a refusal, most of our matter remains the same. Our last line changes. Instead of accepting, we just write down, we regret our inability to accept the invitation due to unavoidable circumstances. Now here the question is asking you for acceptance. You are coming. You just have to give your consent. Mrs. and Mr. Anshul Dikshit thank Mrs. and Mr. B.C. Tomar for inviting them on the occasion of wedding of their son Abhinav at Agra on 28 February 2022 and assure them that they will be present on the occasion to wish the newlyweds a very happy married life. Mr. and Mrs. Dikshit will reach Agra by the Abha Express, which leaves Delhi at 7:50 a.m. So that is your formal acceptance. You are only writing, but still you are writing it in third person. You are giving your consent that yes, they will be present on the occasion to wish the newlyweds a happy married life. This is your formal acceptance. Now the informal replies. Just like the informal invitation, the informal replies are also informal. The language used is very simple, plain. An informal reply is just like a personal letter to relatives, friends and acquaintances, just like the invitation. Writing informal replies. Use first or second person, the way we did it with the invitation. You may express personal feelings and emotions and adopt a relaxed and informal style, and then follow other instructions as given in the informal invitation. Then the word limit remains the same. Now look at the solved example. Your friend Sumit has invited you to a birthday bash at Nerula's on 25th January at 6 p.m. Draft an informal reply accepting. Again, there's an acceptance here. It could have been acceptance, it could have been refusal also. You are beneath of 437 Basant Vihar. They've given you both the addresses. So you have your address, 437 Vasant Vihar, New Delhi, followed by the date, followed by Dear Sumit. Thanks for your loving letter inviting us to a birthday bash at Nerula's on 25th January 2022 at 6 p.m. Normally children do ask me that why are we once again writing that for a birthday party at this particular place and at this particular time. They are inviting, they know about it. But then we need to add on some matter and we need to at least bring it to the required word limit. You cannot just write down a one-line reply. So first we thank the person for the invitation to what the occasion is, at what time and on what date. And then in the next line, in a fresh line, you will mention, in spite of a heavy schedule that day, I'll certainly make it and offer you my good wishes personally. Bye till then is optional. You may skip it also. There could be better lines. Yours sincerely, Vineet. Now, had it been a refusal, what would you have done? We would have done it, thank you for your loving letter inviting us to a birthday bash at Nerula's on 25th January at 6 p.m. Till here it would have remained the same. Now, instead of this, here we would have written, I would have certainly attended your birthday party, but as I have my JEE entrance on the same date, I will not be able to attend your birthday party. Please accept my heartiest good wishes. This is for your refusal. Rest of the matter remains the same. Instead of this, here we change it. We've done formal invitation. Then I told you about formal invitation to a single person. Then we did the informal invitation. Then we took up the replies. We took up a formal reply. In that reply, there was acceptance. Similarly, you'll have the refusal also in the same manner. And same will come in the form of informal invitation. Informal invitation and then the informal replies. What actually you need to do now is practice these questions. Otherwise, what happens is, sometimes the language of the question is such that the child is confused. He is not able to decide, is the question asking me to draft a formal invitation or the question wants me to draft an informal invitation. All this clarity will come with you only if you practice, practice and practice. The more you practice, the more confident you will get and better hold you will have over your writing skills. Then there's this one practice question, but there are sufficient questions in your Maxx marks. Try and practice all of them. You are Dr. Anil Gupta, a professor at Sri Ram College of Commerce, New Delhi. You've been invited to conduct a special counseling session for the commerce students in Prelude Public School, Delhi. However, due to your sudden illness, you are unable to conduct the session. Write a reply for the same in not more than 50 words. See, the one we had done it in our formal acceptance. You'll pick up the same format and instead of the acceptance, you will make it a formal refusal. And they've already given you a reason. So you stick to this reason. Otherwise, the other reason is due to unavoidable circumstances, not be able to attend the function. Then there's another one. Draft a formal invitation to be sent to your friends and family on the inaugural ceremony of your new ceremony of your new showroom. You are Rajni Sharma. Make sure that you give a name to this new showroom. It will not just be new showroom. There has to be a name. Bold letters, day, date, time, venue, and then you may call a celebrity to inaugurate your showroom, right? With this, we come to the invitations. Then what is left from your end is practice. Okay? Thank you so much.